Alright, so we are still sorting out the spectator situation. There are still quite a few spectators in here. Like, why is Estrella in here? Estrella doesn't need to be in here. Go away, Estrella. You can watch my stream. Um, Estrella is such a good player. He hasn't even been playing. Like ladder lately. It's scary how good SCA's gotten lately. They've picked up so many good players. This B team is so strong. I've seen so many different. I've seen games between the B team members that looks like it could be like qualifiers for like tournaments or something like that. Like these guys have just gotten really, really competitive, and so many good players are on the team now. And I'm sure oSpire has also got plenty of good players also. I'm saying like kind of hyping up SCA a little bit just because I'm a little bit more familiar with the players that they already have. So the countdown is actually finishing up. We should be getting into the very first game in just a moment. It will be a Protoss versus Zerg on the map Daybreak Ladder Edition. What map would be better to get a clan war started than good old Daybreak? Once upon a time, I called Shakuris Plateau the granddaddy of all ladder maps. Well, Daybreak is officially starting to assume that mantle. It's been in the ladder pool for quite a while now. It's been a staple in tournament play for a much longer time than that. So I've seen countless games on this map. But Heart of the Swarm, of course, does throw its own set of variations into how this map is played. So, starting out here in the bottom left position of the map Daybreak Ladder Edition, sporting the teal color, the color of the Tal'Darim Protoss. He is from Team oSpire, and he is Nurs. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And spawning up here in the top right position as the red Zerg from Team StarCraft Ascension's Academy team, he is Regret. Alright, now once upon a time, not so long ago, every single Protoss versus Zerg game started out relatively the same way. Zerg would take about a 14 or 15 pool, depending on how greedy they wanted to be, and they would go and secure that fast third base, while their Protoss opponent would just sit down here, go for that Nexus first, Forge fast expand, and we wouldn't see any action for about, like, I don't know, 8 to 9 minutes. 8 to 9 minutes if you were going for like a really early like Immortal Century all in. My point being that like the kinds of variations that we would see between the players was very, very small. There was not that many options that both players could go for, but now in Heart of the Swarm, especially on the Protoss side of things, we are seeing a lot more Protoss take a much earlier gas, go for things like an earlier Mothership Core, or go for things like a very early double Stargate tech, which of course requires a lot of gas income to start the game off. And so because of that variation, we've been seeing a lot of variation from Zerg and how they open too. A lot more aggressive openings, because if you're going for things like two-gate Phoenix, you're left far more vulnerable than if you were going for things like an Immortal Century all-in, where you have those sentries that can force field Zerglings back all day. And that's kind of what we're seeing from Regret here already. He has taken a pretty early gas, 15 gas, with 3 drones already harvesting from it. Now that is, in Heart of the Swarm, that's actually not all that uncommon, but if we were going to be playing Wings of Liberty Protoss versus Zerg, that's very uncommon. You hardly ever see Zerg take that gas that early. Now what could Regret really be doing with that? Well, there's a myriad of things that he could be doing with that. Because in addition to the fact that you can get that fast Zergling speed or earlier lair, there's also the ability to go for that fast Overlord speed, which allows you, as the Zerg player, to get a better read on your opponent before you even go up to lair, so that you're able to determine for yourself like what kind of lair tech structures you want to go for without even needing to guess. You're just able to, figure out for yourself like what your opponent's doing, what his gas timing is, what tech he's going for, and how to counter that. But for Regret, he is just going to be getting that early speed out, and he stopped mining gas completely. So this is very... this can be used in a couple of different ways. I really like this early speed build for Zerg. It allows you to shut down like a couple of different forms of early pressure that your opponent can do, but if your opponent's also going to be exceptionally greedy and not wall off completely or neglect to get sentries or things like that, you can actually just put on a lot of pressure. And Regret here is actually going for something very unorthodox. This is even by Heart of the Sword standards. He is dropping a proxy hatch in the main base of Nurs. This is a pretty unusual move, but Nurs does not really have any sort of like production that he can really use to stop that. Did he even scout that? Of course he did. He saw the fact that that proxy hatch is being made, but he's choosing to ignore it for the moment. He is going to be walling off that natural expansion, so he should be able to just wall that off completely with a Zealot, and he's going to be starting up a Photon Cannon right here next to where that proxy hatchery is being morphed. That Photon Cannon's not going to be able to kill it immediately, but should be able to put some pressure on the hatchery and potentially force Regret to cancel it. Now, Regret is moving additional Zerglings across the map right now. There's not that many of them out on the map right now. There's only 14 Zerglings out on the map right now. Speed is almost done, and this is starting to look a little all-in from our Zerg player. He does not opted to take a natural hash rate behind that. He's not making any additional drones. He's really just going for straight Zerglings, and the Zerglings have now breached the front because that Zealot was not there to block for it. That Photon Cannon is going to go down. This Nexus is going to finish. It's going to be able to get at least a few waves of Zerglings spawn before anything can actually be done for our Protoss player, and this is looking really, really bad for Nurs. I mean, I guess he was just not expecting for Regret to actually go all the way with it. Those probes are being pulled down to the low ground. The gateway is unpowered. The forge is unpowered. Additional Zerglings are being morphed onto the high ground. Probes are dying, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be a GG from oSpire's first player, and there it is. SCA Regret takes game number 1 with a very, very weird, but nonetheless very well executed proxy hatchery Zergling Speedling all in. I mean, not something you see every day, folks. I don't even know what to really say about that other than Nurs, you got punked, man. Like, you saw what he was doing, and he left his Zealot at the front. I forget who calls him that. I think like a base trade team or somebody calls Bob the Zealot. Bob the Zealot's the one that always like blocks the wall so that the Zerglings can't get in. Bob the Zealot was just not on duty, man. He was just like saying, you know what, this is my day off. I'd rather go kill hatcheries than stand guard in this wall all day. And Bob the Zealot just lost the game for you, Nurs. I mean, I don't really know what else to say. That shouldn't happen all that often, but I mean, Regret obviously felt comfortable going for that build. I mean, he went straight for it, and he did back off once. He was just like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to kill my opponent with it, and it's going to work. So clearly, Regret has used that build in the past, and totally throwing in my face what I said earlier about potentially not having the same kind of Heart of the Swarm experience that some of his opponents might, just based off his ladder record. Because Zergs and Wings of Liberty are not known for doing that sort of thing. That kind of really aggressive, like, I'm going to kill you before you do anything funny to me kind of Zerg play, that's very indicative of Heart of the Swarm. That's really, like, kind of the way that Heart of the Swarm Zergs have evolved.